Notnerd Podcast, episode 233. Check your efficacy.
Welcome to the Notnerd Podcast. I'm Nate Heath, and we're here to help you tech better. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
Well, hello there, Mr. Nate. So fine to see you this glorious day, and your beautiful face and your wonderful mustache.
Wow.
I can never get enough.
What are you buttering me up for here? What's your sales pitch?
Well, I've got this thing I'm selling, some call it a pyramid scheme.
Yes.
And this is where you come in.
I'm in. Well, I actually think I know why you're buttering me up, because you have a couple corrections to make from last week's episode.
That's true. I made 2 points to put corrections. We typically don't do corrections. We just have follow-up. But I said 2 things that were incorrect last week, and I just want to talk about those quickly. I'd mentioned I still use my iPad Mini 2 when we were comparing it against the new Kindles that came out, the Kindle Fires. And I said, hey, I've been using this. It's like 8 years old. Well, I exaggerated a little bit. It's 6 years old. The iPad Mini 2 came out 6 years ago, but it still works very well. Although it is a little bit slow, it still does a great job. And the second correction that I had was I said that the Final Cut Pro, Logic, etc. bundle was $299. I kept saying $299, $300. Well, friends and neighbors, it's actually $199.
Oh,
For
wow.
2 bills, you can get 5 programs that will blow your mind.
World-class programs.
World class. So it's even cheaper. So
Wow.
That's great.
Nice. Well, thank you for making those corrections. Let's move on to some follow-up. I did want to let you know the Here Kitty game that you picked, I believe it was 2 weeks ago maybe, which is a very simple iOS game. I did play it some with my daughter. And
Good.
The idea of the game, again, is you open the app, you place the phone face down somewhere, and then when you call out, Here Kitty, sometimes it will meow, and it kind of throws the sound around, and you have to go find it. So basically, hide and go seek.
Right.
Well, my daughter at 3.5, almost 4 years old, she is very interested in looking at the cats on the screen, because you kind of unlock some different cats. Then she is actually going and finding it. She did say the other day, she said, Daddy, I've got a good idea. When you hide it, you can find it. And when I hide it, I can find it. And
That's a great idea.
Yeah, while that'll make it much easier. So maybe a little bit older age group, she might be a little early for it, but we did have some fun doing it. And pro tip, in the app, it'll say, do you want to make it easier or harder, trickier? That just adjusts the volume level so it makes it louder to hear the meows. My daughter does not like loud noises, so I'm like, oh, let's make it easy. And then she's like, it's hurting my ears. So just a little bonus for you there, but fun little game. And another piece of follow-up from last week that I wanted to talk about was we talked about Facebook acquiring Jiffy,
Right.
for all that money, and you brought up that you were reading through, the comments on this post and seeing what people were saying and how they were, I'm just uninstalling this. Well, I went back when I was doing the show notes for the episode, putting all the times in and everything. I was reading through some more of the comments, and I realized these comments are on Mac Rumors, which is a website that's been around for 1 million years, in their forums, which, no offense, Dave, the people that are commenting on Mac Rumors tend to be the more, let's just be kind and say, old cranky guys in the tech realm.
Yes.
So I don't know that that's everybody's sentiment. Some people might be excited about this, but most people aren't real excited when Facebook acquires something. But I did just want to give people some perspective on the audience. We were getting some of our takes from there.
Yeah. And mainly people don't care in general about any of this stuff. They just use the product and go on with their lives.
Yep. A new feature pops up in Instagram. They start using it, or there's more selection and they don't even know that something's happening. Well, as with many things in our current situation, Amazon has announced that they're going to move Prime Day to the fall. So all of you that were saving all your digital pennies for July, middle of July, when they typically do Prime Day. They are going to move it to September. Now, they are working to get back to full capacity. One of the, I say a client, some hammers I help sell, we have them listed on Amazon, and we did get an email saying that they are working to fully open up back of all of their fulfillment stuff. For a while, they were not allowing people to send in their products to Amazon warehouses because they were so focused, unless it was essential stuff, they were so focused on those essential items. Now that everybody's getting caught up on their toilet paper supply, they are working to re-expand to all of the people that sell through Amazon. So they're working on all of that and said, hey, you know what? We're going to work on maybe some deals and that sort of thing, but let's just push off Prime Day till we're hopefully fully back up and running.
They're going to make a lot more money that way.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes. We talk about Spotify a lot and how they bought these podcast services and podcasts. Well, it was announced this week that they have made a huge play to buy arguably the largest podcast in existence, Mr. Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
They announced this week that he is going to move to Spotify, I believe, in September. And then before the end of the year, he will be exclusive to Spotify.
Yeah, there are arguments both for and against this type of thing. But when I think through the exclusivity of a very popular podcast going through one channel, it seems that's a bad practice for the consumers. He's going to reach a lot fewer people. Some people are going to be unwilling to use that platform to listen to his program. I know that money talks, but it just seems like for podcasting in general and for his show specifically, it seems like a bad idea to cut off all of your other outlets and go exclusively with one. What are some advantages that you can see?
The interesting thing, I was going to look it up. I believe it was announced at the beginning of the year that in 2019, he was the podcaster that made the most money, and he made like $40 million last year. People are saying that this deal is worth more than $100 million, but that's probably over a couple years. Spotify thinks it's going to work out for them, but for Joe Rogan and for the listener, for me personally, I do subscribe to his podcast, and a lot of people quickly write him off as, oh, he's just a Fear Factor guy, or he just does UFC stuff. I do like his podcast because he brings in a lot of different voices, and he's very open to different ideas, whether it's health and nutrition or politics or comedy. He gets a very wide variety of guests and a ton of celebrities on there. I don't like it for the fact that now it won't be in my podcast app that I use.
You're going to have to use a different application to listen
to him. Another thing, another big part of his success is every episode, the full episode went on YouTube with video. And so there's a ton of tons of viewership there. Well, with this, he is not going to be able to post full episodes on YouTube anymore. He'll probably just have promo clips or little sound bites here and there. Yeah. So I see that as a negative thing, but we were just talking last week that Spotify's dipping their toes into video podcasts. And so I would think this is kind of their really huge play on that kind of thing. I mean, I'm trying to scan in the article here. I saw the numbers, but he gets some ridiculous, millions and millions of downloads every single month on his podcast. So
this is really smart for Spotify because, guys like you and I, if we listen to a lot of podcasts, and all of the ones we listen to are already available on Spotify. They're there. We just are not listening to them there. And now when something that we want to listen to goes exclusive, we really have no reason to use anything but the Spotify app to listen to these.
Besides the fact that I don't think it's a great podcast listening experience. I haven't tried it in a while, but...
Yeah. For the podcasting industry in general, it seems like bad news. And so we'll just have to wait and see. I was very shocked to hear that. There's other shows that have gone exclusively, but I was like, the biggest one in the world? Yeah. Now that's news.
Yes. Yeah, he was sitting at number 2 on all of Apple Podcasts rankings on Tuesday, and he had a ton of sponsorships and was making a lot of money. Now, the other party that benefits from this is the advertisers, because through Spotify's podcast app, they get a lot more data than they do anywhere else. It does some tracking. They can do dynamic ads, so it can be regionally, or they can give different people different ads. So the advertisers will see a benefit. But we'll see what happens. I think, I'm trying to remember from one of the latest Podbean podcasts where they give the numbers of the different apps, and I think Spotify is less than 10% of the podcast app share. So we'll see how this plays out this fall.
Yep, we will.
And speaking of people trying to get into the podcast game, we talked quite a while ago about Luminary. When they were first launching, they spent a ton of money getting all of these celebrities to do podcasts. And the reason it has not come up is because I have not heard a single person talking about it since. So they raised $160 million before when they first got going. They had a bunch of celebrities that they brought in, but I have not heard any buzz about these, and they just raised another $30 million. Maybe I'll link to John Gruber over at Daring Fireball's take on it, where he basically said they're flushing another $30 million down the toilet. But again, they're very exclusive. You have to pay a monthly fee to hear any of the content.
Who are these investors who are putting money into this? Because to me, this is a terrible investment. It's like you see all the other 200 million go down the drain, and it's like, here's some more money. Yeah. I don't understand what they're doing here.
I don't either.
Sold a false bill of sale.
Yes, and I do not have the Luminary app on my phone any longer, but it's at 2.5 stars on 900 ratings.
That's not good.
Their title is Luminary Premium Podcast App. But I guess if there's somebody that you really are a fan of and they're there, it might convince you to go over there. But I don't get it. I like the open platform. Now, if Spotify came to us with $100 million, I might change my mind. But if I was already making near that. So if they came to us with $0 and said, will you go exclusive?
That's just the thing. If we were making a lot of money on this, it's like, I don't want to change anything. I don't want to hurt the podcast ecosystem, because eventually it's going to come around to bite me. Let's say Joe Rogan is in there and doing great, and then they have some type of monopoly on the experience, and then they kick him out. Then what's he going to do?
I don't know. And speaking of being somewhat kicked out, we've talked about some good news and how great John Krasinski's videos have been during this time. Well, him and whoever was involved with it has sold some good news to Viacom CBS after following a massive bidding war, according to Hollywood Reporter. And they are saying that he will not be the host any longer. He will be an executive producer. So that's basically, you get to put your name on it.
Here's the deal. Without him, some good news does not exist. He is 3/4 the reason why it's fun to watch, because his delivery, his likability, he's a dad, he's got kids, like his experience. It's like, how are they going to replicate that?
Yeah.
Who are they going to put in the chair?
And
that doesn't make any sense.
The appeal of it has been, his kids made the SGN sign in the background and colored it. And
he never wears pants. You know,
yes.
Stands up from the desk like he's at home or whatever.
So I guess my real fear, besides not having him host it, would just be it's just going to become another news show, overproduced kind of a thing. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't see that. Hopefully he got paid really well for that, and then it will probably just go away. So goodbye.
Yeah, I think
he's
doing okay. He's doing okay.
Yeah, he's probably doing okay. And you know what's always better than okay? Dave's Pro Tip of the Week.
So in this world we live in now, we're doing more things than ever virtually. We're doing video conferencing. We're doing, even if it's a telephone call, we're doing it virtually versus meeting in person, face to face. And I think a lot of us have also had to figure out ways to share and send documents back and forth, because we just can't print something off and hand it to somebody. Or maybe we're working in an environment that's different since we're at home and we don't have access to some of the tools that we had at work, multifunction scanner, printer type things.
Oh, yes.
And so what does a person do at home to kind of replicate the experience. One of the things we can do if we're Mac users is we can take advantage of an application that I think is oft overlooked. We've mentioned it in the past, but the name of the application is Preview. Preview on the surface seems like, just kind of like an Adobe Acrobat clone that opens up PDFs, but it can do so much more. Case in point is if you do open up a PDF, you can rearrange the pages in the sidebar of the preview window, which is something that you typically can't do unless you spend some money on an application to be able to alter and change anything about a PDF. It's usually just read only and that's it. Let's say you have two PDFs and you want a page from one and you want to combine it with some pages of another PDF. No problem. You simply open up both documents in Preview. You engage the thumbnail sidebar there on the left-hand side, and you can drag and drop pages back and forth and build a custom PDF and then save that out as another file and you're good to go. But it doesn't stop there. You can even import Microsoft Word or Pages or images and other types of file types, drag them into the sidebar, and they appear as pages within your PDF. And so you can kind of have a multimedia type experience by combining different documents together. Now, there are some caveats, with the Microsoft Word and Pages. If it's a multi-page Word document, for example, it puts all the pages in together. You have some limited functionality. So you may need to export pages individually as PDFs from Word or make Word documents that are shorter. I mean, you have to finesse some of these things. But the point is, you can basically build custom PDFs using previews quite easily, even if there are a couple little tricks you might have to employ. And guess what? You can even scan documents directly into Preview. You can take pictures with your phone or your camera and just dump them right directly through the import function of Preview. And so it's a very versatile application. And I recommend if you're at home thinking, man, I used to have the scanner and it would create PDFs for me and I'd email them off to the client or whatever, you can do that at home with your phone, with your iSight camera. It's a really versatile application and I think more people should check it out.
Yes. Yeah, I use it quite a bit for PDFs on my Mac, and I even have the paid version of Adobe Acrobat, the professional version, but I try to not use that as much as possible just to keep things simple. And I love it for signing documents. You can save your signature in there and then you just plop it in. You can, if it's a fillable PDF where it has all the fields, somebody took the time to do that, you can fill it out, but you can also just add text in. Little text field. So if it's not fillable, you can easily do that. And
you can mark it up with colors and corrections and highlights and circles and squares and arrows. And so there's a lot of built-in tools.
It is a very underrated program that comes for free and is there by default on every Apple computer.
Yep.
I like it. Well, let's move on to our takes of the week. This one, I was just surprised I had to click on it and read the article because Netflix has announced that they're going to start asking customers who haven't used it in the past year if they want to keep their subscriptions.
This is bonkers to me.
Yes.
They're throwing away money. What is the reasoning for this?
The
goodwill?
Goodwill. I think it's, just trying to have some goodwill press in this time where they're competing with Disney Plus and all these other services. But yeah, it's so they will send you a notification, say, hey, you haven't used us in the last year. Do you want to keep your account and keep paying us money, which is the whole idea why you have a subscription, like gym memberships. You hope people don't use it and you just make the money. And then if you don't respond, they'll just automatically cancel your subscription, which I think this is one of those rare things where it does seem to be a great benefit to the end user.
Yeah, I think a lot of it could be pressed because they have more competition now than ever with Disney Plus and many others who have popped up. And so if they can get some mind share from the community that, I have a choice. I want to either pick Netflix or this other streaming competitor. A story like this might enable somebody to stick with them because they know that the company is on their side and has their back. So it's a long shot. It's not a business plan that I certainly would go for if I was running the business, but who knows? Maybe the goodwill will pay off dividends in the future that we don't even know about.
Yeah. Our next story, Jack Dorsey is I believe the CEO of both Twitter and Square, which does Square Cash and all the Square readers. And they have made the announcement with all of these companies adjusting to work at home and all these things that employees can work remotely even after the COVID-19 shelter-in-place orders end. So there's been a lot of talk about this with different companies. They announced it first for Twitter and then for Square. I did think it was funny. In the Verge article, it says, the new policy will apply to teams that are able to do their jobs remotely. Those that need to come into the office, like security personnel and facilities, will continue to do so, which... Oh, really, Captain Obvious? The people that actually need to physically be there and can't work from home don't have the option of working.
The people who
home.
wash the windows are going to have to go in and wash the windows.
Yes, but I think overall we are going to see some very interesting shifts in work culture due to this, and people who have had a lot of success from it, and then some that have just figured out maybe it's not the best option for their companies. I heard some podcasters talking about, oh yeah, this is great, everybody should just work from home. Well, working from home is not the best solution for everyone, especially if you have families around, and especially if the kids are not in school, and it can be very difficult for people. It's not for everybody. If you tend to be more introverted and are able to adjust to that, well, yeah, that's great. And plenty of people have worked from home for a very long time. I've done it for the last 5 years most of the time. In the last year, almost exactly, pretty much exclusively. So, but it took me a long time to adjust to it, trying to figure out a good workflow and how to make that work. So,
sharing the space that other people occupy who are not your coworkers is a challenging affair.
Yes.
People want to use the same equipment. They want to be noisy. They want to have friends over. They want to do whatever. So even post-COVID, just think of it as when the kids aren't in school, it's just like working from home in the summertime. I mean, people are going to be in and out of the house. It's going to be noisy. There's going to be lawnmowers going all over the place and creating noise. And it's not an ideal situation for many, many people.
No, but I will say this, if you're in the market for commercial real estate in the Bay Area, that might become much more available over the next few months as these companies are able to downsize, especially in that area, but probably in many areas. There's some talk that commercial real estate could really take a dive just because people are realizing, hey, I didn't need to be paying thousands or hundreds of $1,000s a month for rent and to keep a building going when people can do just as good of a job at home.
Yeah, it's kind of a trade-off. Employees are having to spend more of their own money on infrastructure like electricity and internet and all those other water, sewer, all those things. Yet they get the benefit of not having to commute and spending gas and going through the trouble and, maintaining an office at another location. And so it's a win-win usually for both employees and companies when you can work out a work from home situation, but it's not perfect for all work scenarios, but many of them there are.
Yes, you do have to look at the holistic cost of the situation.
I watched a video on that the other day.
I bet you it was good. So AT&T, they have been putting on their phones that the phone is on 5G. And I do want to do a quick sidestep and say there is absolutely no relation to 5G and coronavirus, just to get that out there. That is a complete myth, and there have been people that are very confused on that subject. But anyways, AT&T has been marking phones where it's got the little LTE thing. It says 5G, which it's not really 5G. It's an advanced LTE system. Well, a major ad board has recommended to AT&T that they should not use the fake 5G logo or use that in their advertising. So from what I was reading, it looks like they're going to stop using it in their advertising, but they're going to continue to leave it on the phone.
This is similar to like if you had a VHS and you were piping out the stuff to your TV on VHS, and then you used SVHS, which is like super VHS. It's a different cable that provides a cleaner signal, but you were calling that HD. This is an HD, beautiful stuff.
Yes.
It's not HD.
No.
It's a little bit better than your VHS quality, but it's not HD by any means. And this is kind of what AT&T was doing. It's not LTE. It's a little bit better, but it is not the 5th generation cellular second coming that everyone has talked about for years. So I'm glad that this board came down and said, hey, stop lying to your customers.
Yeah.
Stop trying to cheat the system and do what's right.
Yes.
And so it doesn't really feel like they did it willingly. It feels like they kind of had to do it.
Yes.
What you're seeing as well.
Finally pressured into it after using it for a while now, and they call it 5G evolution,
which is even more confusing.
5G, yes. And so I don't believe it if you're an AT&T customer. You do not have 5G.
S-Video, one step closer to HD.
Yes. One small step closer.
Yeah.
Another thing that has been going around and people have been, worried about is if you updated your iOS devices to 13.5, if you happen to look at the release notes, it mentioned that it had the support for the coronavirus API. So people are wondering, now is my phone tracking me? Is it, doing this contact tracing now? No, this is just the API, which an app can be built on. So very similar to if an app wanted to use Apple Maps or Safari web browser within their app.
Or the weather or something.
Yes, they can build that into their app. So this allows for somebody else, whether it be government commissioned or something like that, that they can build the app now, because Apple and Google work together. We've mentioned that to create this API that will work cross-platform. It was also released for Android this week, but if you have an Android phone, there's a 99% chance that you probably won't see this update because the Android ecosystem is horrible for actually getting you updates.
And I will say you started this with, does this mean that they're able to track me with my phone? The answer for that has always been yes.
Yes.
Your cell phone, they've always been able to track you and see where you are and do whatever. Apple has, Samsung, Google, whoever makes a phone, if they wanted to, they can track you. Law enforcement, it doesn't matter. But this specific thing is it just inserts the platform into the software, like you said, so that software manufacturers can take advantage of this API. Application Programming Interface is, I believe, what it stands for.
Yes. Well, our next one is just a very interesting product that has been, is getting some press again due to recommendations of the CDC and everybody else to wash your hands. And it's called PathSpot. PathSpot sells a scanner. PathSpot is the company that fact checks your hand washing efficacy. Efficacy? Is that the word?
Efficiency? I don't know. Efficacy, I think, is
efficacy
the word.
Is what it says. I don't think I've ever said that one out loud.
Yeah.
But yes, Christine Schindler, the CEO and co-founder of PathSpot, has been preparing for the past 3 months, for the past 3 years, building this product where it's basically a scanner that within 2 seconds it looks at your hand and see if you wash them appropriately.
So the scanner and the picture kind of looks like it's putting purplish blue light on the person's hands. Why can't they just irradiate it with ultraviolet and just kill all the bacteria?
Well, then you wouldn't think it was working. You have to be able to see it.
I see.
So we will see how much this is implemented, and I'm sure they've been getting plenty of phone call about people wanting these devices. So.
If you're a food service company, I can see how this would be phenomenal. That workers wash their hands, use the restroom, whatever, come back, do a check, and it's like, shoot, I better go wash some more.
Or in a medical situation, or there's some good. The pricing ranges based on size and number of devices, but on average it starts at $175 a month. So that you do a monthly subscription, And I'm guessing they won't give you, they won't cancel your account if you haven't used it in a year, but includes the device itself and the data dashboard so that you can keep track of things there. So looks like there are some other competitors in the space, but we're going to be seeing more of these innovations as we've talked about as we try to make sure that everybody is on the up and up.
Necessity is the mother of invention. And so when there is a crisis like this going on now, if there's problems to be solved, people will take that opportunity to fill the void with technology, inventions, whatever it takes. Yes. We're a clever species.
We are. Our security and privacy stories of the week. The first one, speaking of coronavirus contact tracing, North Dakota's official COVID-19 app, which from the numbers that I've seen, North Dakota is one of the least affected states in the United States.
And the least populated, one of the least populated.
But apparently they have an official coronavirus tracking app, and it was found that it was sending some data to both Foursquare, which used to be an app that everybody used. Now it's just this huge data location repository, and also sending some, like a device idea and some data to Google that could be used for advertising type stuff.
I tell you, this is why Google and Apple got together to create an API that was safe and secure, because, anybody can just be making these things.
Yes.
And they're not secure at all.
The security researcher did mention that it wasn't necessarily that they were there, because there's a good chance they're not being used for nefarious, but it wasn't in the privacy policy. It wasn't explained anywhere that any of your data was going to be shared with these other third-party services. So it looks like Proud Crowd, the company that made the app, they are going to be addressing that very soon.
If I had to guess, and there's no real reason to guess, but if I had to guess, because I want to tout my intellectual abilities, they probably took shortcuts and are using, there's this word again, APIs from Foursquare and Google to make the app easier to develop. If they can already get a location data and map data and all this stuff through Google and Foursquare's APIs, there's a lot of programming that they don't have to do. So that's probably what's happening, is their application is leveraging the services offered by both Foursquare and Google to make their job easier.
Yes.
That's my guess.
Yep. I would agree. They were probably just trying to get the app taken care of and get it out there. Now, why they just didn't wait for the Google and Apple API.
Well, there's a lot of government entities, whether it's a state or local or national, they don't want to trust Google and Apple with all the data. They want to be able to control it themselves. Yeah. So I think it's a control issue for a lot of these municipalities and other governmental agencies.
Yes, indeed. One other story that I don't think we brought up on the podcast that's kind of been unfolding over the last couple weeks is that hackers were able to gather a bunch of data from a law firm of many celebrities, including Madonna, Lady Gaga, and were basically threatening to reveal the information that they had, which you can imagine legal information about celebrities could be pretty important. So, and also Nicki Minaj, Bruce Springsteen, Christina Aguilera, Mariah Carey, Cam Newton, Bette Midler, and numerous other individuals. I did see, as I was looking at this morning, that there was some rumors that they had legal information for Donald Trump, but that has seemed to be refuted. And from what I was reading, it looks like they are not dealing with the hackers, and the hackers were saying, well, now it's going to cost you twice as much. They claim to have stolen 756 gigabytes of sensitive data. Now, in document land, that is a whole lot of data. Correspondence, contracts, non-disclosure agreements, which the whole nature of non-disclosure agreements is that they don't get out, phone numbers and email addresses. So
this firm, Grubman, Shire, Mail-Salis, and Sachs.
Yes.
They probably should just shutter up their doors and go away, because nobody else is ever going to hire them again. And they'll probably be sued into oblivion by all these stars.
Yes. They are not in a good spot right now. So
No.
So a reminder, try to keep things secure. Our bonus odd take of the week. This was just a fun little YouTube channel that I stumbled across via kotkey.org, previous pick of the week. But he posts a lot of great things, and it is simply called Dad, How Do I? And he just makes very simple videos like how to fix most running toilets, or how to check your car's oil, how to shave your face.
So I came across this as well separately. I don't know. I was on Reddit or something like that. But this is great. He grew up in an unstable home and didn't have his dad around and had to kind of learn a lot of this stuff for himself. And so he's providing a service to those who either, had parents that didn't teach him anything, like me, sorry kids, you're on your own. Or if they grew up in a household where, now they're homeowners and they don't know how to do any of this stuff. So I think it's a great service that he's offering to people who just want to know how to do basic things.
Yes.
Something that your dad or grandpa or mom or grandma would otherwise teach you.
Yes, and he is up to nearly 2 million subscribers, so people are finding benefit, and he does throw in a dad joke or two here and there. And
nice.
So if you're looking for these simple things, this would be as YouTube usually is, but he seems to keep them pretty short and doesn't do the 10 minutes of intro and backstory and all of that stuff, and give you some good tips for around the house.
That's good. I'm glad he's getting the press he needs.
Yes, and you know what else we needs? Our picks of the week.
Your transitions are sometimes great, sometimes. Okay, well, we'll go on to my pick of the week, and it has a lot to do with my tip of the week. In that, the whole idea about Preview was finding an alternative to a professional application that might cost you hundreds of dollars, like Adobe Acrobat Pro. Well, there is a website that I've known about for a long time, and we've mentioned it once or twice on the show, but we've never really picked it as a pick of the week. That pick is alternative2.net, and it's just alternativeto.net. It bills itself as a crowdsourced software recommendations. So, for example, if you were to type in Adobe Acrobat Pro in the little search and hit return, it's going to give you alternatives to that application. And it's got a ton. There's a million. If you're PC, Linux, or Mac, whatever, there's a million applications. Popular ones are like Adobe Photoshop, for example. It costs a lot of money to subscribe to Creative Cloud, or if in the past you bought a full version and are still using it today, it would have cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get Adobe Photoshop. Well, if you want to start out now, what do? I type that in. GIMP is a free program for photo retouching, etc. Affinity Photo is a very inexpensive one on the Mac platform, and the list goes on. Paint.net, Photopea, Pixlr, Pixelmator we've talked about before, Corel Paint Shop Pro. So if you don't have a lot of money to spend, or if you're just fed up with an application, or here's a real world scenario, you're using an application, you upgrade your computer to the latest operating system, guess what? Maybe the application doesn't work anymore. So what's an alternative to that application that I can use on my new operating system? So I use it several times a year looking for alternatives to programs that either I don't like anymore, or the developers drop support, or I've upgraded my computer and they don't work. It's a very neat website to check out, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Yep, and they've got reviews and all that good stuff. And I will mention, you mentioned Affinity Photo, and I was looking at this for somebody who uses Windows, an alternative to it was actually to Adobe InDesign, and they have a publisher program. All of their applications are now available on Mac and Windows.
Great.
And they are, I think we mentioned this a while ago, that they are half price right now. So $24.99 per application. And you can, I think it's maybe even like a 90-day free trial. But Affinity, it is just well worth it for basically the price of a month of Adobe Creative Cloud. You can have some very capable applications to replace Adobe.
I might have to check this out. Yeah, Affinity Publisher, Designer, and Photo are what they have available right now.
Very nice. Well, my pick of the week is something I picked up on a deal recently, And it is the PD Charger Rev Power 61 watt USB-C charger GAN Tech Type-C wall charger, fast charging, power delivery, foldable adapter, compatible with MacBook Pro, Air, iPad Pro, 2020 Nintendo iPhone SE 11 Pro Max, and more. All that to be said, in that wonderful Amazon title is that it is a USB charger. Now, GAN, you might have caught that in there, which is gallium nitride, is the latest in technology for chargers, which allows them to be much smaller. Now, Dave, I'm holding this up to the camera. This is a 61 watt charger, and it is, the size of an AirPods case, basically. It's got a little flip out thing and then just one USB. So if you wanted a charger for like my laptop on the go, having this instead of a bigger brick or something else.
I think Apple's 61 watt charger is about 30% larger than that.
Yes.
They're pretty big. And even older ones, for like the old MagSafe ones, those things were giant for the 70 and 100 watt. So yeah, that's a neat technology, and it doesn't take up a lot of space in your bag for 61 watts. That thing will power anything that you've got in your bag.
Yes.
So you're probably going to ask me what I would pay for one of those things.
Yes, I would.
Yeah. I have not looked at these recently, but for that particular one, for 61 watt, I'm going to say this thing is about $48. Am I in the ballpark?
You are high. It is currently $29.99, and
Whoa.
It is RAV Power with 5 stars on 1,100 ratings, and I got it for $20.99. So
wow, it's RAV Power is the brand?
Yes.
For some reason, I was thinking it was Anchor. But yeah, RAV Power is a cheaper alternative. So that's great. I think that's well worth your money. Now, if you wanted to spend in the $30 and $40 range, Anchor does have some. They're not 61 watt. They're in the 31 or 2 watt range that have a USB-C and a USB Type A port.
Yeah.
So they're a little more versatile, but they're not as powerful. And size-wise, it might be a little bit bigger, actually.
Yeah.
So there are alternatives. The point, I think, to your pick of the week is if you need something like this stuff is really affordable these days.
Yeah.
Take a look at Amazon, and you can find exactly what you need.
Yeah, and the GAN is nice that they are getting smaller, and I did go with this one because it was 61 watts, so one that comes with my laptop, the 16-inch MacBook Pro, is like a 98 watt, so it's not as powerful, but it will, as long as I'm not editing videos, it will charge it up just fine.
And the GAN technology, I thought that was more expensive for those, but maybe the price has come down.
Yeah, I think because it's starting to drop quickly.
Yeah, they're usually about $10 to $20 more for the same item that doesn't use that technology. So that's good to see that the price has come down.
Yes, indeed. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to mention it. Our Ramazon purchase of the week this week. We love it when you go through our Amazon links and we get a little affiliate fee, and then I get to go see anonymously what people have been purchasing. And this week I have the Strive Protein Variety Snack Pack, air-dried 100% beef biltong, lighter than jerky, no carb, no sugar, 16 grams of protein, 4-pack of 2.25 ounces. Now, Dave, are you familiar with beef biltong?
No, I have no idea what this is.
So it is somewhat similar to beef jerky. I heard about it on another podcast. Somebody was singing the praises of this. It's an air-dried beef jerky, so it's done a little bit differently, and it's really good. I think this might have actually been a purchase from a PDX Fast Foodie post I did at some point, because I did a video on this Strive beef biltong, but it is a good alternative to beef jerky. Especially a lot of beef jerky has a lot of sugar in it. So this is just if you have not tried beef biltong, you can find it in most grocery stores now. Dave, I'm going to send you over a picture. So this is kind of a sample pack. You get the zesty garlic, the teriyaki, the hickory, and the spicy peri-peri.
I think I watched the video on this that you...
Yes, you probably did. Their packaging has gotten a little more vibrant according to this thing here, but it's very good for you and falls in line with the way that I eat. High protein, all natural, keto friendly, it says on the thing. No nitrates, no preservatives, no sugar.
And so there are 4 packages, and they're about 2.5 ounces each. Is that what I'm hearing?
2.25 ounces. Yes.
2.25 ounces. I'm going to say this 4-pack is $10.
Well, that is where the beef biltong comes in. It is $24.
Oh man, I'm so far off today.
Yes, which it seems like that is a little higher than I remembered paying, but it does look like you are getting the 4 different flavors here. Beef jerky is not cheap in the first place, but
I wouldn't pay more than $15 for that.
Yeah,
I gotta be honest. I would take the sugar and the nitrates, save a few bucks.
Yes.
I mean, that's why I'm not as healthy as I should be.
Well, there you go.
It's all you weigh.
Holistic cost.
Oh, the holistic cost. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes. Yes. But biltong, I really like it. It's a different taste than beef jerky. It's just a whole different complexion. I don't even know how to talk about it. But if you're looking for a healthy snack, check out some biltong.
Very fun.
Yes. With that, I think we will wrap up this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We love hearing from you guys on Facebook or wherever you get in touch with us and asking your questions, and we try to do our best to answer them. So if you're able, get out there and tech better. Wow, that might be the first ever sneeze on the podcast. Wow, my brain just turned off there.
Well, I'll splice that together.
Yes, I just gave you some gold there. You're welcome.